The professional diplomat, no matter the rank, is an important instrument of national policy and, above all, must be seen as sober, respectful, trustworthy, reliable, honest interlocutors, loyal to the governments we represent, and capable of influencing those governments. If we are not, why should anyone bother with us at all? Because they like us? No. Thus, we are often portrayed in novels and film, with the notable exception of the highly entertaining, if rather fanciful and satirical, recent Netflix series, who I'm sure some of you have seen. You might recognize Richard Holbrooke amongst the characters as being, on the whole, rather drab and gray, and circumspect, certainly in comparison to the more colorful portrayals of our CIA and FBI colleagues in film. But indeed, if you are at all familiar with the Myers-Briggs personality types, State Department, Foreign Service officers are by and large INTJs, which is to say, introverted, intuitive thinkers, vice-feelers, with a deep penchant for order. It will not surprise you to know that I'm an outlier as an extrovert. In other words, though, most of us are not known for being the life of the party, despite the professional requirements that we host receptions in the national interest. And in fact, that's not why we've gone into the business. Most of us would rather be engaged in important negotiations than in small talk, and the quote that resides in the back of our minds is from the 19th century British Prime Minister Lord Palmerston, who famously wrote in 1848, "We have no eternal allies, and we have no perpetual enemies. Our interests are eternal and perpetual, and those interests it is our duty to follow." A simpler way of stating this is location, 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 or in this case, geography, 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 as any good real estate agent knows, because where we stand on an issue depends on where we sit, and in our case, a continent between two oceans dependent heavily on trade, and always have been. Now, since we're discussing friendship and diplomacy, I must interject here that representing a superpower like the United States can easily go to one's head. With the title of ambassador or even lowly vice consul in some places comes a sudden charisma. Your jokes are funnier than ever. Your charm more alluring. Your brilliance, well, more brilliant. And suddenly everybody wants to be your friend. Those who succumb to the siren song and forget that they are simply an instrument in the service of the American taxpayer do so at their own peril. We've had presidents who feel sudden, inexplicable bonds with some leaders, even dictators, but most professional diplomats are not in the habit of falling victim to such coup de foudre, sudden falling in love. Now, I know that President Biden last week was proclaiming over a very lavish state dinner that India and the USA are friends. Most certainly friends with benefits when China is waving just beyond the horizon. Now, sincere friends, I will say, like the British ruler King George, settled for hot dogs at Hyde Park when FDR was president, some of you may know. And we hold our political noses and we engage with the Saudi government because, not because Joe Biden's a hypocrite over what he said in his campaign, but because it makes sense for our larger national interests as determined by economic and security needs and our political class. Türkiye now, is a formal NATO ally. An unhappy marriage, perhaps, but a marriage nonetheless, and a very important alliance given its location, its relationships, and its capabilities. Some of you here may remember that Turkey fought alongside the United States in Korea. We have short memories about when others have helped us. We have very long memories about when we've helped others. Beyond that, we do have long-standing, true, even cordial personal relationships within the Turkish government that facilitate our engagement. Now, and I should also note here something that You know, like all professions where you have an international electricians union and things like this, most national diplomatic, military, and intelligence services are cohort organizations. And so we come to know each other well over the years, both within our own governments, internally, because we interact, and also externally within other governments. We've been working with some of these same folk for decades, and that does help, and that's also why it's wise to maintain cordial relationships while remembering that everyone really does know the rules of the game. But back to my earlier remark now about diplomacy being the art of finding space for agreement in the same word. The bread and butter of our profession, so to speak, is the capacity for successful negotiation, what Winston Churchill once referred to as conversations of silk and steel. Isn't that brilliant? He was brilliant, and the booze helped, I think, too. That's also another diplomatic story, but that's on the other side. Teasing, it's a stereotype. An incredible amount of Spade work actually goes into the preparation of major agreements between countries. It begins with understanding one's own red lines and being prepared to articulate them respectfully, as well as listening carefully to the other side and acknowledging the legitimacy of their concerns. It includes acceptance of things seemingly as minor, such as the placement of an Oxford comma in a document. People who used to serve at NATO would pull their hair out over the time spent on negotiating these documents. I see knowing glances, and those of you who are in contract work know that. But knowing that this enables all sides, or each side, to say they got what they needed in the agreement, and to maintain a degree of sovereign deniability, while complying with the essential purpose. It involves respectfully and accurately representing the other side's concerns to your own constituency or government. It is being willing to accept what is an imperfect solution if it is of significant importance. It is being willing to acknowledge the essential dignity of the other person or party. And sometimes it is to accept what is perfectly honest or truthful, if not necessarily completely truthful. And every parent knows this, and everybody probably who's in a relationship knows this, but I don't say it. But if it advances the objective. Again, the opposite of conflict is not necessarily complete peace, but a process. And that ends up to some people sounding awfully selective and deceptive. But it's really not. It's kind of constructive. Having said all of this, I realize that I must have presented a rather cynical, transactional perspective on the work of a diplomat, and indeed in our business we used to quip privately that we operated according to the child's rules of the sandbox. I'll show you mine if you show me yours. Are you able to play telephone accurately and convey the message so that it faintly resembles what was initially said? And at the end of the day, if you try to take advantage of me, and my father is bigger than yours, watch out. And it happens. Humans are humans. Does friendship play no role at all in our work? No. Here I am reminded, I have to say, of Joseph Conrad's very chilling epithet. For those of you who read Graham Greene, quoted in his 1976 novel, The Human Factor, quote, "I only know that he who forms a tie is lost. The germ of corruption has entered into his soul." Eek. No, it's not that we do not wish to be friendly, but we do not wish to mislead through that friendship. And it does occasionally require a certain sang-froid, cold-bloodedness. But our oath is to the Constitution, not to a president, not to the political party in charge, and our loyalty is to the country.